My husband said, "My ex is coming to Christmas dinner." I smiled. Of course. What I didn't say was that I'd already invited someone else. Someone who would make this dinner unforgettable. Let me back up. My name is Martin Hale, and I'm 55 years old. I spent 30 years building houses in New Hampshire, raising a son who now pretends I don't exist, and trying to understand how my life turned into a joke everyone but me found funny. 3 months ago, my daughter-in-law posted on social media. My father-in-law still thinks he's invited to family events. Someone should tell him. 17,000 likes. My son Dylan shared it with a laughing emoji. That's when I stopped being the nice guy. Sarah, my second wife, is kind. Too kind. She'd invited my ex-wife Evelyn and her new husband Richard to our Christmas dinner without asking me. Found out through a forwarded email chain. Sarah thought it would heal old wounds. She didn't understand that some wounds are meant to stay open, reminding you not to trust the knife. So I made my own invitation. I called Gregory Thorne. You wouldn't know the name, but Evelyn would. He was the man she'd been sleeping with for 2 years before our divorce. The affair that ended our marriage. The secret she thought died with our old life. "Greg," I said when he answered, "it's Martin Hale, Evelyn's ex-husband." Silence on the line. Then, "What do you want?" "To invite you to Christmas dinner. Evelyn will be there, so will her new husband. I thought it might be interesting." More silence. I could hear him breathing, calculating. "Why would I come?" "Because you never got closure. Because she chose Richard's money over your passion. Because you're curious." He laughed, low and bitter. "You're a bastard, Martin." "I know. See you at 6. He hung up, but I knew he'd come. Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear. Sarah spent the day cooking, humming carols, completely unaware she'd set a trap for herself. Our house smelled like roasted turkey and pine. The tree lights blinked in the corner like knowing eyes. Dylan arrived first with Amanda, his fiancée. My son wore a designer suit that cost more than I made in a month back when I was working. Amanda's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Martin," Dylan said, "not Dad, never Dad anymore." "Son." Amanda air-kissed near my cheek, her perfume expensive and overwhelming. "Lovely home, small but cozy." Translation, "Your house is a shack compared to what we deserve." I smiled. "Make yourselves comfortable." Evelyn and Richard came next. My ex-wife had aged well, I'll give her that. Blonde highlights covering the grey, yoga-toned arms, that same smile that once made me stupid. Richard was everything I wasn't. Tall, distinguished, wealthy. A corporate lawyer who drove a Tesla and probably had never changed his own oil. "Martin," Evelyn said, her voice warm like we were old friends. "Thank you for having us." "Wouldn't miss it." Sarah fluttered around them, taking coats, offering drinks, playing hostess with desperate enthusiasm. I watched from the corner, nursing my bourbon, waiting. The doorbell rang at 6:15. "I'll get it," I said. Gregory Thorne stood on my porch, holding a bottle of wine and wearing uncertainty like an ill-fitting coat. He was heavier than I remembered, greyer, but his eyes still held that intensity Evelyn had once found irresistible. "Greg," I said loud enough for everyone inside to hear. "Come in. So glad you could make it." I watched Evelyn's face when Greg walked into the living room, watched the color drain, then return in a hot rush, watched Richard's confusion, Sarah's bewilderment, Dylan's irritation, Amanda's predatory interest. "Everyone," I announced, "this is Gregory Thorne, old friend of the family." Evelyn's hand trembled around her wine glass. "Hello, Evelyn," Greg said quietly. The room held its breath. Richard looked between them, his lawyer brain processing the tension. "Have we met?" "No," Greg said, still looking at Evelyn. "But I know you. Congratulations on your marriage." Sarah touched my arm. "Martin, who is this?" "An old friend," I repeated. "Greg and Evelyn go way back, don't you?" My ex-wife's smile could have frozen hell. We knew each other briefly, years ago. Briefly, Greg echoed, and something dangerous flickered in his expression. That's one way to describe it. Amanda leaned toward Dylan, whispering. Dylan's jaw tightened. Well, Sarah said brightly, desperately. Dinner is ready. Shall we sit? The dining table seated 8. I'd arranged the place cards carefully. Evelyn between Greg and Richard, Dylan across from me, Amanda next to her future mother-in-law, Sarah at the head, playing happy hostess, still not understanding what was happening. We sat, we ate. The turkey was dry with tension. So, Greg, Richard said, his lawyer voice smooth as silk, how do you know the family? Greg looked at me. I nodded, just slightly. I met Evelyn 17 years ago, Greg said. We were close. For about 2 years. The math was simple enough. Richard's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. 2 years, he repeated. I ended it, Evelyn said quickly. It was a mistake. Ancient history. History has a way of repeating itself, I said, taking a bite of stuffing. Dylan dropped his napkin on his plate. What the hell is this, Dad? Some kind of power play? Just dinner, son. Just family and old friends sharing a meal. You're pathetic, Amanda said, her voice cold. Dragging up the past like this. Evelyn made her choice. She chose to move forward, something you clearly can't do. I smiled at her. This girl, this calculating social climber, who'd convinced my son to cut me out of his life, who posted my humiliation for the world to mock. You're right, Amanda, I can't move forward, not when my own son steals from me. The room went silent except for Christmas music playing softly from Sarah's phone in the kitchen. Bing Crosby dreaming of a white Christmas. What? Dylan's voice was ice. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, slid it across the table. These are bank statements from my mother's account. $37,000 withdrawn over 6 months. None of it went to her care. Dylan's face went red, then white. That's a lie. The bank has records. So does her care facility. I've been documenting everything for 3 months. Every transaction, every forged signature. You can't prove I took anything. I don't have to prove it. I just have to show it to enough people. Your business partners, your clients, Amanda's family. I looked at my future daughter-in-law. Did you know your fiancé is a thief? Amanda stared at Dylan. You said that was a bonus. It was. Martin is lying. He's trying to destroy me because he can't handle that I'm successful, and he's just a washed-up contractor living in a rental. I own this house, I said calmly, bought and paid for with 30 years of honest work. Can you say the same about anything you own? Dylan stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Fuck you. Dylan, Sarah gasped. No, I'm done. I'm done with this toxic old man who can't let go of the past, who invites my mother's affair partner to dinner like it's a fucking game, who accuses me of theft when all I did was manage Grandma's money the way she wanted. She wanted to die with dignity in a decent facility, I said. Instead, she died in a state home because you embezzled her care fund to buy your girlfriend a tennis bracelet. I watched my son's face crack, watched 27 years of his life rewrite itself in his expression, watched him realize I knew everything, had known for months, had been waiting for this moment. Amanda stood up too. We're leaving. This is insane. Sit down, Evelyn said. Everyone looked at her. She was staring at Greg, her eyes wet. Just sit down, she repeated. Let's not run away from this. Let's be honest for once. Richard touched her hand. Evelyn, we don't have to... Yes, we do. She looked at me. You want honesty, Martin? Fine. I cheated on you. For 2 years I slept with Greg while you were working 60-hour weeks to pay for Dylan's college. I lied to your face every day. And when Greg wanted me to leave you, I chose Richard instead because he had more money and better prospects. There's your honesty. Are you happy now? Thrilled, I said. And you? Evelyn turned to Dylan. Did you steal from your grandmother? Dylan's silence was answer enough. Amanda grabbed her purse. I can't be part of this. Dylan, are you coming? He looked at her, then at me, then at his mother. Something in him broke. Yeah, I'm coming. They left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Richard cleared his throat. I think we should go too. Probably wise, I agreed. Greg stood slowly. Evelyn, can we talk? No, she said, we can't. We never could. After they left, only Sarah remained, sitting at the head of the table surrounded by half-eaten food and shattered illusions. Why? She asked. Why did you do this? Because they needed to understand something. What? That I'm not the harmless old man they thought I was. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. You used me. You used our home, our dinner, our Christmas. Yes. I want you to leave. I stood up, put my napkin on my plate. I'll get a hotel. Not tonight, tomorrow. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before, fear. I don't know who you are, Martin. Neither did they, I said. That was the problem. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? I spent Christmas night in the guest room, listening to Sarah cry through the walls. The sound came soft at first, like someone quietly mourning a lost future, but by midnight it had grown sharper, ragged. Every few minutes I thought she'd stopped, only for the sobs to return, quieter but somehow worse. The radiator clicked in the corner, the pipes moaning as if the house itself disapproved of what we'd become. I stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks, tracing the shadows that the tree lights cast through the hallway. Somewhere downstairs, the faint smell of pine and burnt sugar cookies lingered, relics of a holiday that had collapsed under its own pretense of peace. When dawn came, I didn't bother making coffee. I moved like a ghost through the kitchen, careful not to wake her, careful not to look at the framed photos on the wall. Dylan at age 10, Sarah and I smiling on some beach we could no longer name. I packed a bag with the essentials, a few shirts, my laptop, a stack of printed statements that had become both my burden and my weapon. I left a note on the counter. It said only what was necessary. I need time. Don't try to find me. I'll be fine. It was a lie, of course, but lies were the only currency I had left that still spent cleanly. By mid-morning, I'd found a weekly rental near the warehouse district, a studio apartment that smelled like someone else's cigarettes and defeat. The wallpaper peeled in places, the carpet was the color of ash, and the mattress sank like a grave, but it was anonymous, and that was enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone buzzing on the table beside me like an angry insect, and for a moment I considered turning it off entirely. Then I didn't. Maybe I wanted to know just how far the world would go to chase me down. The first message was from Dylan. A barrage of texts, each one more venomous than the last. He called me every name he could think of. Coward, manipulator, lunatic. Said I was trying to ruin his life, that I was jealous, bitter, broken. I read them all without flinching. He'd always had his mother's temper, his mother's way of turning guilt into righteousness. Then came the voicemails from Evelyn's lawyer, full of threats and legal jargon. Defamation, harassment, cease and desist. The voice was smooth, calm, and utterly sure of its own power. I almost laughed. Lawyers like that counted on fear, but I had someone far better in my corner. And then there was Sarah. Her message was longer, softer. She asked if I needed help, if I was eating, if I was okay. She said she still believed there was good in me, that maybe this was a phase, a breakdown, a midlife unraveling that could be mended with therapy and time. She wanted to believe I hadn't changed, that I was still the man who read to her in the evenings, who planted tulips with her in the spring. But the truth was simpler and crueler. That man had been eroded, worn down grain by grain, until only the hard core remained. I deleted them all except one. Rebecca Saunders. Heard you had an interesting Christmas. Coffee? Rebecca was my lawyer. Technically, though we'd been friends long before she ever billed me an hour. 58, sharp as a knife, silver hair cut short, always a step ahead of whoever thought they were clever. She had a laugh that could strip varnish from wood, and a gaze that saw straight through pretense. The kind of woman who made you tell the truth without ever asking for it. We met at a diner off Route 3, the kind of place that still had linoleum floors and coffee strong enough to melt a spoon. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth by the window, steam curling off her mug, a yellow legal pad open in front of her. Outside, the parking lot was half-frozen mud and slush, and the sky hung low like wet wool. I slid into the seat across from her. "You're either brilliant or stupid," she said, not looking up. "Haven't decided which yet?" "Not until I see the evidence." "Little of both, probably." She smiled thinly, a professional smile, and gestured to the waitress for another coffee. "Tell me about the bank records." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the folder I'd compiled over the past 3 months. Every document, every transaction, every signature, the withdrawals that didn't match Dylan's spending patterns, the forged authorizations, the correspondence from my mother's care facility stating that her account had run dry months before it should have. I'd pieced it all together late at night, one spreadsheet at a time, the truth unfolding like a bruise. Rebecca leaned in, eyes narrowing. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer sympathy, just watched, absorbed. When I finished, she flipped her pen in her fingers, thinking. Finally, she said, "This is good, really good. If you wanted to press charges, you'd have a case." "I don't want charges." She arched an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" "Leverage." That made her sit back, study me with something between concern and admiration. "Now we're talking. What's the play?" "Dylan's getting married in 3 months. Big wedding, upstate New York. Amanda's family's money is all over it. He's made this his victory lap, his redemption arc. I want to be there." Rebecca tapped the pen against her pad. "He'll never invite you." "He will if he thinks I'm going to press charges otherwise." She let out a low whistle. "You know that's extortion. That's negotiation. You're walking a fine line." "I've been walking it for a year. Time to see what's on the other side." Rebecca sighed, long and heavy. "You realize this will destroy whatever's left between you two." "It's already destroyed. I'm just making it official." She shut the legal pad with a decisive snap. "You're not the man I met 10 years ago." 10 years ago, that man thought love could fix anything. He was wrong. Maybe, but he was a good father. I stared at the table, at the ring of coffee she'd left near the edge of her pad. Good fathers get stolen from and mocked online. I'm trying something different. She exhaled, the kind of sigh that carried both respect and regret. "All right, Martin, I'll draft the letter, but be careful. Revenge has a way of eating people alive. I'm counting on it eating him first." The letter went out the next day. Rebecca crafted it with surgical precision, formal, legal, terrifying in its restraint. It didn't threaten, not explicitly. It merely presented the facts, outlined the inconsistencies, and suggested that certain authorities might take an interest if a private resolution couldn't be reached. It was the kind of letter that made grown men sweat and call their lawyers at midnight. By that afternoon, my phone rang. Dylan's name flashed across the screen. For a long moment, I just watched it vibrate on the counter, the sound small and insistent. Then I answered. "Hello, Dylan. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice. You're insane. I'm pragmatic." He swore, loud enough that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "You think you can scare me? You think you can just—" "I'm offering you a deal," I said, cutting him off. "Invite me to your wedding, treat me with basic respect, and we never mention the bank records again. Or don't, and I file a criminal complaint Monday morning." "You can't prove anything." "I can prove enough." There was silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, could almost picture him pacing, red-faced, knuckles white around the phone. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped, quieter now. I didn't steal anything. That money was for family expenses. Tell it to a jury. More silence. Then finally, fine, you can come to the wedding, but after that we're done. You don't call, you don't visit, you pretend I don't exist. That's what you've been doing to me for a year anyway. At least this way I get to watch you get married. Why? He asked, and this time his voice cracked, raw and confused. Why do you need to be there? Because you're my son, I said, and I want to see you make the biggest mistake of your life with my own eyes. He hung up. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. I thought of Sarah's tears, of Rebecca's warning, of my mother's face when I told her the money was gone. A hollow kind of victory sat in my chest, heavy as stone. 2 weeks later, the invitation arrived. Heavy envelope, cream cardstock with gold embossing, the kind of thing that smelled faintly of wealth and self-importance. Mr. Martin Hale and guest. The handwriting wasn't Dylan's, it was Amanda's, neat and polite, as if civility could hide contempt. Sarah didn't want to go. She said it would only reopen wounds, that I should let it go, that forgiveness was the only way forward. But I wasn't looking for forgiveness. I was looking for closure, and sometimes closure looks like a confrontation in a rented tuxedo. The weeks leading up to the wedding stretched long and empty. I spent my days in that dingy studio, the radiator hissing, the city outside grey and indifferent. Rebecca called a few times, checking in. He hasn't filed a complaint, she said once. He's bluffing, but he's scared. I could hear her smile through the phone. You've got him cornered. Cornered animals bite, I said. Then wear gloves. At night, I'd lie awake, imagining the wedding, the music, the toasts, the way Dylan would avoid looking at me. I wondered if he'd even introduce me to Amanda's parents, or if I'd be seated at some distant table near the restrooms, a ghost invited out of obligation and threat. Part of me wanted to back out, to burn the invitation and forget the whole thing. But then I'd picture my mother's care home, the nurses whispering about unpaid bills, the hollow look in her eyes when they switched her to a shared room. That image hardened me again. The morning of the wedding, I drove north through sleet and fog. The venue was one of those restored estates, all stone walls and manicured lawns, the kind of place where money didn't just show, it announced itself. Cars lined the circular drive, attendants in black coats directing guests with the soft efficiency of a machine that ran on privilege. Inside, the air smelled of flowers and champagne. I handed my invitation to the coordinator, who glanced at it, hesitated, and then nodded me through. The ceremony was perfect, of course. Amanda floated down the aisle in lace and light, her family beaming as if they'd just acquired stock in a promising company. Dylan stood at the altar, nervous, handsome, wearing the same cufflinks I'd given him for his college graduation. When he saw me, a flicker of something, anger, shame, maybe both, crossed his face before he looked away. The vows were brief, practiced, full of promises neither of them understood yet. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in applause. I clapped too, slowly, deliberately, my hand steady. At the reception, I sat alone near the back. The music was loud, the laughter louder. People danced, drank, posed for photos. I watched my son make the rounds, smiling that perfect smile he'd learned from Evelyn. He looked like everything I used to want him to be. Successful, admired, in control. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe he'd inherited more from me than I thought. The charm, the calculation, the ability to lie beautifully when it mattered most. Rebecca had told me revenge eats people alive. She was right, but she'd left something out. Sometimes, if you chew slowly enough, it tastes a little like justice. The venue was one of those old estates converted into an event space, all stone walls and manicured gardens, the kind of place where wealth whispered instead of shouted. I drove up in my 12-year-old truck, parked between BMWs and Lexuses, felt every year of my age, and every dollar of my bank account. Inside, 200 people milled around in designer clothes and practiced smiles. I recognized some faces from Dylan's social media, his business partners, Amanda's sorority sisters, people who'd probably liked that post about me. I wore my only suit. Grey, slightly wrinkled, tie crooked on purpose. Let them see exactly what they expected. Dylan stood near the bar with his groomsmen, all of them laughing too loud, drinking too fast. He saw me. His face went rigid, but he didn't approach. Good. I wasn't here for reconciliation. Amanda was holding court near the dessert table, her white dress probably costing more than my truck. She saw me too, whispered something to her bridesmaids, and they all turned to stare. I smiled and waved. The ceremony was pretty, I'll give them that. Flowers everywhere, string quartet, officiant who spoke about love like he believed in it. I sat in the back, watching my son promise forever to a woman who demanded my apartment keys at Christmas. When the officiant said, "If anyone objects," I stayed silent. Wasn't that kind of father. The reception was where things got interesting. Dinner first, chicken or salmon, speeches that made everyone cry or laugh on cue. I ate my salmon, drank my wine, waited. The father of the groom traditionally gives a toast. Dylan had skipped that part of the program. After dessert, as people mingled and the DJ started up, Amanda found me. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About you leaving, now." I looked at her, this girl who thought cruelty was strength, who'd built her life on taking things from people too kind to fight back. "I was invited. Under duress. Everyone knows you blackmailed Dylan to be here. It's pathetic." "Then why are you here talking to me? If I'm so pathetic, ignore me." Her jaw tightened. "Because you're ruining my wedding day just by existing. You're the sad old man in the corner, reminding everyone that Dylan comes from trash. Trash built the house you grew up in, probably. Trash keeps the lights on and the water running. Don't forget where you come from just because you're wearing a white dress." "I come from nothing," she said, her voice dropping low. "And I clawed my way out. Dylan is my ticket to something better, and I won't let you destroy that." "I'm not destroying anything. You're doing that yourself." What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone, showed her a screenshot, a message thread between her and someone named Trevor. Recent messages, very friendly messages. Messages about meeting up when Dylan was out of town. Her face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is Dylan hasn't seen it yet." "You wouldn't?" "Depends." "On what?" "On whether you apologize." She laughed, sharp and ugly. "Apologize? For what?" "For the post. For humiliating me in front of thousands of people. For treating me like garbage when I've never done anything to you except exist." "You're joking." "I'm really not." We stared at each other. The DJ played something upbeat. People danced, laughed, celebrated a union I could destroy with 3 taps on my phone. "You're a monster," Amanda said finally. "No, I'm just tired of being nice." She walked away. 15 minutes later, Dylan found me. "What did you say to Amanda?" "Nothing important. She's crying in the bathroom. Her bridesmaids are furious." "What the hell did you do?" "Asked for an apology." "For what?" "You know for what." Dylan grabbed my arm, squeezed hard. "You need to leave, now, before I have security throw you out." "Security?" I looked around. "You mean those 2 kids in rented suits by the door? They're not throwing anyone anywhere." "Dad, please." The word cracked something in both of us. "Just go. You made your point. You got your revenge. You forced your way into my wedding. Can't that be enough?" I looked at my son, really looked at him. Saw the boy who used to help me build birdhouses in the garage, who'd fall asleep on my shoulder during long car rides, who'd called me his hero once, back when heroes didn't have to be perfect, just present. That boy was gone. "Your apartment," I said. "The one downtown. Nice building, doorman. View of the river. What about it? I own it. Dylan blinked. What? The building. I bought it 20 years ago, sold it 10 years later for twice what I paid, used the money to invest in the company that developed your building. I own 6% of the property, which means I own part of your apartment. You're lying. Check the records. Martin Hale, partial owner, entered into the LLC in 2015. I never told you because I wanted you to feel independent. Wanted you to think you'd made it on your own. Why are you telling me this now? Because Amanda wants the keys to my house, wants to rent it out for profit, wants to take the last thing I have and turn it into money. She never said that. I pulled out my phone again, played a recording. Christmas dinner, Amanda's voice. After you move into assisted living, Martin, we could rent your house. It's in a good neighborhood, could make real money. I'd recorded the whole dinner, every word. Dylan's face went through colors. That's illegal. So is stealing from your grandmother. I didn't. Yes, you did. And I can prove it. Just like I can prove your wife is cheating on you. Just like I can prove that your business partner's been skimming from your accounts. I've got all the evidence, son. Every dirty secret, every lie, every stolen dollar. You want to know why? Why? Because you made me your enemy, and I'm very good at my job. Dylan hit me then. Closed fist, right to the jaw, sent me stumbling back into a table. Champagne glasses shattered. Women screamed, men rushed forward. There it is, I said. There's your true self. Hit the old man at your own wedding. Let everyone see what you really are. 2 groomsmen pulled Dylan back. Amanda ran over, crying, asking what happened. Guests pulled out phones, started recording. The moment would be online within the hour. Dylan stared down at me, horror and rage fighting for control of his face. Get out and never come back. I walked out through the silent crowd, every eye on me, every phone capturing my exit. Got in my truck, drove away from my son's wedding, from the last connection I had to my old life. My phone buzzed before I hit the highway. Rebecca. Tell me you didn't. Me. I did. Rebecca. Christ, Martin. This is war now. You know that? Me. Good. I'm ready. The video hit social media before I got home. Comments divided into camps. Some said I deserved it. Some called Dylan a monster. Some just wanted more drama. By morning, it had 2 million views. My phone rang at 7. Unknown number. Mr. Hale, this is Craig Bartlett from Channel 9 News. We'd like to interview you about the wedding incident. No comment. We have reports that you blackmailed your son to attend, that you've been harassing his fiancée. Would you like to respond to those allegations? No comment. Mr. Hale, the public deserves to know. I hung up. 3 more reporters called within the hour. I blocked them all. Rebecca called at noon. Dylan's lawyer filed a restraining order. You can't come within 500 feet of him or Amanda. Fine by me. Martin, this is serious. They're claiming harassment, stalking, threatening behavior. They're building a case against you. Let them. I've got my own case. Against who? Everyone. She was quiet for a moment. What's the end game here? What do you actually want? To watch them destroy themselves. And if they destroy you first, won't happen. You sound very sure. I am. I hung up and opened my laptop. Time for phase 2. I'd been documenting Dylan's business dealings for 3 months. His company, Milestone Development, specialized in commercial real estate flips. Buy properties, renovate them, sell for profit. Legitimate on the surface. Except Dylan had been using investor money for personal expenses. The company books showed equipment purchases that never happened, contractor payments to shell companies, missing funds disguised as overhead costs. I'd found it all using public records, leaked documents from a disgruntled employee, and my own construction expertise recognizing fake invoices when I saw them. Now I sent everything to the Securities and Exchange Commission, then to Dylan's 3 biggest investors. then to the Better Business Bureau. Then I waited. The first investor called Dylan within 24 hours. I knew because Dylan called me screaming, "What did you do? What the fuck did you do?" Told the truth. "You sent lies to my investors. You're trying to destroy my company." "The numbers don't lie, son. You've been stealing from them for 2 years. I just helped them figure it out. I'll sue you for defamation. I'll take everything you have." "You already tried to take everything, remember? The house, the keys, my dignity. What's left to take? I'm your son. You became something else. I'm just showing the world what you really are." He was crying now. I could hear it. "Why are you doing this? What did I do that was so terrible?" "You humiliated me. Publicly, repeatedly, deliberately. You taught your fiancé to hate me. You stole from family. You lied to my face while pretending to be a success. You're a fraud, Dylan. And frauds get exposed eventually. I'm just speeding up the timeline. I'll destroy you. Try." He hung up. 20 minutes later, Amanda called. "You miserable old bastard. Dylan's company is falling apart. 3 investors pulled out. 2 more are demanding audits. We could lose everything." "Good. Good? That's your son's livelihood. Built on theft and lies. It deserves to fall. You're going to regret this. I promise you, you'll regret this." "I regret plenty of things, Amanda. This isn't one of them." She hung up. I poured myself a drink, sat on my rental apartment's tiny balcony, watched the sunset over the warehouse district. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus Vance. We need to talk." Marcus Vance. I'd been expecting this call. Vance was a retired cop, early 60s, who ran a small private investigation firm now. He'd helped me once, years ago, tracking down a contractor who'd skipped town with a deposit. I'd paid him well, and we'd stayed in loose contact. I called the number. "Marcus. Martin, heard you're having trouble with your son. Word travels fast." "In this business, it always does. I'm calling because someone hired me to dig into your background, find dirt, compromising information, anything they could use against you." "Let me guess. Amanda?" "Her father, actually. Richard Patterson. Big money, big connections. He doesn't like what you're doing to his daughter's marriage." "What did you find?" "Nothing useful. You're boring, Martin. Pay your taxes. No criminal record. No secret families. No offshore accounts. Cleanest target I've had in years." "Why are you telling me this?" "Professional courtesy. Also because Patterson's an asshole and I don't like working for assholes. Just wanted to warn you they're coming for you." "Appreciated. One more thing. Patterson mentioned hiring someone else. Someone less ethical than me. Someone who might not just dig for information." "You think he'd send someone to hurt me?" "I think he's the kind of man who solves problems permanently. Watch your back." He hung up. I sat there, drink in hand, thinking about what I'd started. A retired construction worker going to war with wealthy, connected people who had resources I couldn't match. Who could hire lawyers, investigators, maybe worse. I should have been scared, should have backed down, apologized, tried to salvage what was left of my family. Instead, I felt alive for the first time in years. My phone rang again. "Dylan." "Dad." His voice was different now, quiet, broken. "Please, we need to talk, in person." "You have a restraining order against me." "I'll drop it, just, please. This is getting out of control." "Where?" "My office, tonight, 9 o'clock. Just us." I knew it was probably a trap. Knew Dylan might have police waiting, or lawyers, or worse. Knew the smart move was to refuse. "I'll be there," I said. Dylan's office was in a strip mall off the highway, sandwiched between a gym and a vape shop. Milestone Development, in gold letters on the door, lights still on at 9 p.m. I parked across the street, watched for 20 minutes. No cops, no suspicious cars, just Dylan's Audi in the lot. I checked my phone, made sure my location was being shared with Rebecca, then walked across the street. The door was unlocked. Inside, industrial carpet, cheap furniture trying to look expensive, motivational posters about success and determination. Dylan sat behind his desk, tie loosened, hair messy, looking 10 years older than he had at the wedding. "You came," he said. "You asked. Close the door." I did, stayed standing. "What do you want, Dylan?" "To understand. Why you're doing this. What you want from me. I want you to remember where you came from." I remember. Poor kid, single mom after the divorce, father who worked all the time and barely knew I existed. "I worked to pay for your life. You worked to avoid your life. Mom raised me. You just paid the bills. Is that what she told you?" "That's what I saw." I sat down across from him, suddenly tired. "You think I wanted to work 60-hour weeks? Miss your baseball games, your concerts, your birthdays? I did it because that's what fathers do. They sacrifice." "No, that's what you did. Other fathers coached Little League. Other fathers showed up. You were just gone. And you became this." I gestured around the office. "A thief, a liar, married to a woman who's cheating on you." "She's not cheating." "Yes, she is. Trevor Martin, college boyfriend, never got over her. They've been meeting for 6 months, usually at the Marriott off exit 7, room 412. I've got receipts, photos, timestamps." Dylan's face went white. "You're lying." I pulled out an envelope, slid it across the desk. "See for yourself." He opened it with shaking hands, pulled out the photos. Amanda and a tall, athletic man entering a hotel, kissing in the parking lot, leaving separately an hour later. "When?" Dylan's voice barely worked. "Last Tuesday. And the Tuesday before that. And the Tuesday before that. She tells you she has yoga. She's not doing yoga." Dylan dropped the photos, put his head in his hands. "Why? Why would you show me this?" "Because you needed to see what she really is." "No, because you wanted to hurt me. Just like you wanted to hurt her, hurt Mom, hurt everyone. I wanted you to understand something." "What?" "That actions have consequences. That you can't mock people, steal from them, humiliate them, and expect no response. That the world isn't just successful people and victims. Sometimes the victims fight back." Dylan looked up, tears on his face. "I'm sorry. For the post, for everything. I was angry at you for being absent my whole childhood, and I took it out on you. But this, destroying my business, my marriage, my life, this is too much. I made a mistake. You made a choice, and choices have prices. So what's the price? What do I have to pay to make this stop?" I stood up. "There is no price. This doesn't stop. Your investors are pulling out. Your wife is leaving you. Your reputation is destroyed. You wanted to be somebody. Congratulations. Now you're somebody people warn their children about." "Dad, please." "Don't call me that. You lost that right when you made me a joke on the internet." I walked to the door, stopped with my hand on the knob. "One more thing. That apartment building you're so proud of, I'm selling my stake to a company that's going to triple your maintenance fees. Enjoy poverty, son. It builds character." "I hate you," Dylan said, his voice dead. "I know. That's the only honest thing you've said all night." I left him there, crying in his failing office, and felt absolutely nothing. I made it 3 blocks before headlights filled my mirrors. Dylan's Audi coming fast, swerving between lanes. The roar of his engine cut through the night like a living thing, a furious animal chasing its wounded prey. My pulse spiked as I pressed the gas, my old truck groaning in protest but responding, coughing out exhaust and defiance. The road ahead was empty, an industrial artery lined with shuttered warehouses and flickering streetlights, the kind of place where no one looked out their windows anymore. The orange glow of sodium lamps stretched across the asphalt, carving the darkness into broken pools of light that seemed to melt as I passed through them. He pulled alongside me, horn blaring, window down, screaming something I couldn't hear over the roar of both engines. His face was twisted, unrecognizable, teeth bared, eyes wide with the kind of rage that erases reason. I saw his mouth form words. You ruined everything, maybe, or you're dead. But they vanished into the night wind. The Audi lurched closer, inches from my door. I could smell burning rubber. I eased into the right lane, hoping he'd pass, that he'd burn himself out before doing something irreversible. But he followed, cutting in front of me and slamming his brakes. I jerked the wheel right, tires shrieking, gravel spitting up from the shoulder. The truck fishtailed but held. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. He accelerated again, came up beside me, and braked a second time, testing me, taunting me. He was trying to make me crash. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just anger. This was destruction. His or mine, he didn't care which. I fumbled for my phone, keeping one hand on the wheel. I dialed Rebecca. It rang twice before she picked up, her voice thick with sleep. Martin. Dylan's chasing me on Route 3, I said, the words tumbling out too fast. He's trying to run me off the road. If something happens... The impact came before I could finish. His car slammed into my rear bumper with the sound of shattering metal and breaking glass. My phone flew from my hand, skidding under the seat. The truck lurched forward, spinning halfway before I corrected it, tires screaming as I fought the wheel. My shoulder screamed in protest. The engine whined, begging for mercy. He hit me again, harder this time. My head snapped forward, forehead slamming into the steering wheel. For a split second, everything went white. I tasted copper and realized my nose was bleeding. The speedometer climbed, 60, 70, 80. The truck wasn't built for this kind of speed, not on these cracked roads, not under this kind of madness. A sharp right turn loomed ahead, the kind that had claimed more than one drunk driver over the years. I downshifted, the gears grinding, and took it wide, feeling the truck lean dangerously as the tires kissed the edge of the guardrail. Dylan's headlights flared in my mirror, then swung up beside me. His car scraped my door, metal against metal, the sound screaming like something alive. I touched the brakes, let him surge ahead. He took the curve too hard. The Audi fishtailed, spinning across both lanes, headlights cutting wild arcs before the car slammed into the guardrail with a hollow boom. Sparks erupted, then darkness. I should have stopped. Any decent man would have. But decency was long gone, ground down by years of betrayal and grief. I kept going, the road narrowing, my breathing ragged. The world outside became a blur of light and shadow. Half a mile later, those same headlights appeared again in my mirror. Smaller at first, then growing, closing in. He was coming faster now. The car wounded, but still alive. The bastard wouldn't quit. This time, he pulled in front of me and slammed on his brakes. I couldn't stop in time. My front bumper collided with his rear, not hard enough to deploy the airbags, but enough to jolt every bone in my body. The truck shuddered, engine coughing once, then died. Both vehicles sat there, steaming in the middle of the highway, our breath mixing with the smoke. I opened my door, the metal creaking like it hurt to move. The night air hit me cold and sharp. Dylan stepped out of his car, shoulders heaving, face pale beneath the streetlights. His hair was matted with sweat, his tie undone. He looked like a man who had already lost and didn't know what to do with the loss. We stood about 10 feet apart in the middle of the road, breathing hard, two silhouettes surrounded by broken glass and the smell of gasoline. The city was silent except for the ticking of cooling engines. You destroyed my life, Dylan said. His voice cracked halfway through, the words more confession than accusation. You destroyed your own life, I said. I just documented it. He laughed, a short, broken sound that didn't reach his eyes. You think you're so righteous. You think ruining me makes you better. I don't think I'm better, I said. I think I'm the only one left willing to tell the truth. He rushed me then, fast, screaming, fists swinging wild. I barely had time to raise my arms. The first punch landed in my ribs, a dull explosion of pain. The second hit my jaw, spinning me sideways. Then another blow, my shoulder, my gut. I went down hard on the asphalt, the world spinning, breath gone. He kicked me, once, twice, again. Ribs, back, shoulder. Each impact was a drumbeat of rage. "I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!" he screamed. His voice cracked like he was tearing something from inside himself. I grabbed his leg on the next kick, twisted hard. He lost balance, went down. We rolled across the road, two grown men reduced to animals, fighting not for victory, but for punishment. There was no technique, no thought, just instinct and years of anger boiling over. His knee caught my ribs again. I elbowed his side. He clawed at my face. Somewhere a car horn blared, distant, meaningless. I managed to get on top, pinning his arms. He bucked, twisting, spitting. I pressed down harder, using the weight of my years, of every regret I'd ever carried. "You done?" "Fuck you." That's not an answer. Sirens in the distance, faint at first but growing louder, slicing through the still night air. Someone must have seen us. Two headlights stopped on the highway, chaos in the middle of the road. Dylan went still beneath me. His chest rose and fell fast. He turned his head, eyes closed. "I'm done," he whispered. I let him go. Rolled off, body aching, lay beside him on the cold asphalt. The stars above blurred through tears I didn't realize I was shedding. We stared at them together, two broken men staring into the same indifferent sky. "I loved you," Dylan said quietly. "When I was little, I thought you were the strongest man in the world." "You were wrong," I said, voice hoarse. "No," he said. "I was right. You were strong. You just used it to hurt people instead of protect them. Like father, like son." He laughed, a small bitter sound that ended in a cough. "Yeah," he said. "Like father, like son." The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights painted the darkness, reflecting off the shards of glass around us. The police pulled us apart, shouting questions neither of us answered. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said no. They arrested him anyway for assault and reckless driving. One officer looked at me with pity. "You should get checked out, sir." "I've been worse," I said. They let me go with a warning. Something about endangering myself by staying on the road. I nodded, signed whatever form they shoved at me, and stood there, watching the cruiser pull away with Dylan inside. His head was turned toward the window, but he didn't look back. Rebecca picked me up from the station at 2 a.m. She didn't say a word as I slid into the passenger seat. The car smelled faintly of peppermint and paper, her briefcase open on the back seat. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty, the wipers whispering over a light drizzle. She drove like she always did, steady, deliberate, the way she lived. When she pulled up in front of my rental, she finally spoke. Her voice was low, controlled, the kind of calm that carried weight. "This has to stop." "It's already stopped," I said, my throat raw. "Dylan's arrested. Amanda knows about the affair. His business is collapsing. It's over." She turned to me, eyes sharp in the glow of the dashboard. "No, Martin, it's not over. This kind of hatred doesn't just end. It festers. It grows. It ends when someone dies or someone forgives. And you don't seem capable of either." "Good night, Rebecca," I said, reaching for the door. "Martin." She caught my arm before I could leave. Her hand was firm, her gaze unflinching. "I've known you 10 years. I've seen you at your best and your worst. Somewhere in there is still the good man I met. Find him before it's too late." I shook my head. She stared at me for a long moment, eyes softening with something that might have been sorrow. Then she let go. "Then maybe you're the one who needs saving, not him." I didn't answer. I stepped out into the cold, shut the door, and watched her taillights fade into the night. Inside, the apartment was dark, the air stale. I didn't bother turning on the light. I locked the door, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed on the bed without undressing. Every bone hurt, every muscle throbbed. I stared at the cracked ceiling until dawn, listening to the hum of the refrigerator the occasional distant siren, the faint echo of my own heartbeat. When the first light crept through the blinds, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it, half expecting it to be Rebecca again, or maybe Sarah. But the number was unknown. The message was short, clean, and colder than anything Dylan had ever said to me. Tomorrow night, come alone, or I release everything to the press. No name, no signature, but I didn't need one. I knew who it was. Amanda, the woman who had stood beside my son at the altar, smiling like the world owed her nothing but perfection. The woman whose hand had rested on his arm, while I sat at the back of the room, the unwanted witness. She had looked at me once that day, across the tables of crystal and linen, and in that glance, I'd seen calculation, curiosity, and something darker. Recognition. I read the message again, then again, letting the words sink in until they felt carved into my skin. My ribs ached when I breathed. My knuckles were swollen. My jaw was stiff, my mind slower than usual, but even through the fog of exhaustion, I could sense the trap closing. I sat up, stared out the window at the city waking up, delivery trucks rumbling past, a stray dog nosing through garbage, the sky the color of ash. Somewhere out there, Amanda was waiting, phone in hand, ready to detonate whatever she had left of me. And I knew I would go. The address she sent led to Dylan's office building, same place as before, but she specified the storage unit in the basement, Unit 7. I told Rebecca where I was going. She told me I was an idiot. I went anyway. The building was dark, closed for the weekend. I used the code Amanda had sent, let myself into the back entrance. Fluorescent lights flickered in the stairwell. The basement smelled like mildew and old cardboard. Storage Unit 7 was at the end of the hallway. The door was already open. Amanda sat inside on a folding chair, surrounded by boxes. She looked different without makeup, without the designer clothes. Younger, harder, more real. "You came," she said. "You threatened me. What choice did I have?" "Sit." She gestured to another folding chair. I sat. We faced each other in the fluorescent-lit storage unit, two enemies in a concrete box. "Dylan's in jail," she said, "because of you. You pushed him to it. You destroyed everything he built." "He destroyed himself. I just held up the mirror." Amanda laughed, sharp and mean. "You really believe that, don't you? That you're the righteous one, the victim fighting back. You're not. You're just a bitter old man who couldn't let go of a grudge. And you're a gold digger who married for money and cheated for love. We all have our roles to play." She stood up, paced the small space. "You want to know the truth? The real truth?" "Sure." "Dylan didn't post that thing about you. I did. From his account while he was sleeping. He didn't even know about it until it went viral." I felt something shift in my chest. "Why?" "Because you were getting in the way. Dylan wanted to reconcile with you, invite you to dinner, heal the family. I couldn't let that happen. I needed him isolated, dependent on me. So I made you the enemy." Mission accomplished. "And the bank records you found, the evidence of embezzlement, that was me too. I had access to his accounts. I made the withdrawals, forged his signatures, used the money to pay off my student loans." "You set him up." "I protected my interests. Dylan's a soft touch, would have given his grandmother's money to charity if I hadn't taken it first. I saw an opportunity and I took it. That's survival. That's betrayal." She stopped pacing, looked at me with something like respect. "You know what? I actually like you, Martin. You're a fighter. You don't quit. When Dylan first told me about you, I thought you'd be like every other old man. Broken, defeated, easy to ignore. But you fought back. You're exactly like me." "I'm nothing like you." "Yes, you are. We both do whatever it takes to win. We both use people. We both understand that nice guys finish last. The difference is I used to be a nice guy. You never were." She smiled. "Exactly. That's why I'll win and you'll lose." "You think you've won? Your husband is in jail. Your marriage is over. Your father-in-law exposed your affair, all according to plan. I stopped. What? Amanda pulled out her phone, showed me a document. This is a power of attorney, signed by Dylan 3 days ago, giving me control of all his assets in case of his incapacitation or imprisonment. His business, his accounts, his property, all mine. He'd never sign that. He did. I told him it was standard protection against your attacks. He trusted me. And the affair. Trevor is my cousin, third cousin, barely related. The photos you took, staged. We knew you were following me, knew you'd assume the worst, so we gave you exactly what you wanted to see. I felt the pieces rearranging in my mind, the careful plan I'd built over months collapsing like a house of cards. You wanted me to tell Dylan about the affair. Of course, it destroyed his trust in his own judgment, made him doubt everything, including himself, made him vulnerable. And the fight on the highway? His idea, but I encouraged it. Knew he'd get arrested, knew that would trigger the power of attorney. Now he's in jail, I control everything, and you look like the villain who drove a son to assault his own father. I stood up. This was all a setup. From the beginning. From the Christmas dinner, she corrected, when you invited Greg Thorne, that's when I realized you were dangerous and needed to be neutralized. So I built a trap and let you walk into it. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know you lost. I want you to live with the knowledge that you destroyed your relationship with your son, ruined his life, and it was all part of my plan. You're not the smart one, Martin. You're not the winner. You're just a tool I used to get what I wanted. She walked past me, stopped at the door. Oh, and those investors who pulled out. I called them, gave them evidence of embezzlement that I created. Your SEC complaint just made it easier to sell the story. Thank you for that. Dylan will figure it out. He'll see what you did. Maybe. Eventually. But by then, I'll have liquidated everything and disappeared. And you'll still be here, alone, hated by your son, living in a rental apartment, knowing you were outsmarted by a 25-year-old girl. She left, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. I sat in the storage unit for a long time, surrounded by boxes full of Dylan's old life. Trophies from high school, yearbooks, photos of us when he was young and still thought I was a hero. My phone rang. Rebecca. Police just called. Dylan's being released. Amanda posted bail. I know. What do you mean you know? I told her everything. Amanda's confession, the setup, the power of attorney, the staged affair photos. Christ, Martin, you need to tell Dylan. He won't believe me. You have to try. Rebecca, I destroyed my son's life based on lies from a woman who played us both. Why would he believe anything I say now? Because he's your son. Not anymore. I hung up, turned off my phone, sat in the dark storage unit until a security guard found me at dawn and asked me to leave. For 3 days, I did nothing. Stayed in my rental, didn't answer calls, didn't check my phone, lived on coffee and silence. On the 4th day, someone knocked on my door. Dylan stood there, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, thin like he'd forgotten to eat. Can I come in? I opened the door wider. He sat on my couch, looked around the small apartment. This is where you've been living? Since Christmas? It's depressing. It suits me. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, Dylan spoke. Amanda left, took everything, the accounts, the business, even my car. Left a note saying she'd be in touch through her lawyer about divorce proceedings. I know. How? She told me, 3 days ago, in your storage unit. She explained the whole plan. Dylan's laugh was broken. Of course she did. Why wouldn't she? She won. Did she? I'm broke, Dad, completely broke. The business is bankrupt. Investors are suing me. I'm facing fraud charges. My wife was a con artist who used me to steal everything. Yeah, I'd say she won. What about you and me? He looked at me. What about us? Are we done? Is this where it ends? I don't know, you destroyed my life. Amanda destroyed your life. I just gave her the weapons. Same result. Maybe. But my weapons were real. Yours really did steal from your grandmother. You really did embezzle company funds. Amanda just convinced me the rest was real too. Dylan put his head in his hands. I did take money from Grandma's account. 30,000 over 6 months. I was desperate. Business was failing. I thought I could pay it back before anyone noticed. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back. I know. More silence. Traffic sounds from outside. Life continuing like nothing had changed. I was a bad father, I said finally. I worked too much. Wasn't there enough. Chose money over moments. When your mother left, I told myself it was her fault, but it wasn't. It was mine. Dad, let me finish. I was a bad father, but I was trying. Everything I did for you, to give you a better life than I had. And when you rejected that, mocked it, made me a joke online, I broke. I became someone else, someone worse. You became who you needed to be to survive. No, I became what you thought I was. A toxic old man obsessed with revenge. Amanda might have orchestrated it, but I performed it willingly. I'm not innocent here. Dylan wiped his eyes. So, what do we do now? I don't know. Can we fix this? I don't know that either. He stood up. I should go. Wait. I pulled out a folder, handed it to him. These are the real documents, the ones that prove what Amanda did, forged signatures, account transfers, power of attorney fraud, everything. Where did you get these? Rebecca. She's a good lawyer. Been working on this for 3 days. Why? Because you're my son, and even when I hate you, even when you hate me, that doesn't change. Dylan took the folder, held it like it might explode. Thank you. Don't thank me. Use it. Get Amanda arrested. Get your money back. Rebuild your life. What about us? I don't know, Dylan. Maybe we're too broken. Maybe some things can't be fixed. But maybe they can. Maybe. He left. I sat alone in my apartment, feeling older than my years, tired in my bones. 6 months later, they arrested Amanda in Miami. She'd spent Dylan's money on a condo, a car, and a new identity. The police found her drinking Mai Tais on a beach, not a care in the world. Dylan got some of his money back. Not much, but enough. He sold the business, paid off his investors, started working construction. Said he needed to understand what I'd done all those years. We didn't talk much. Christmas, birthdays, the occasional text. It wasn't reconciliation, but it wasn't war either. It was something in between, something human. Sarah took me back, said I'd been stupid but forgivable. We tried therapy. It didn't work, but trying counted for something. Evelyn called once, asked if I was happy. I said no. She said good, she wasn't either. We hung up friends, maybe, or close enough. Rebecca retired, moved to Florida, sent me a postcard. Stop breaking things. I kept it on my fridge. One day in late November, almost a year after that Christmas dinner, Dylan showed up at my house with a box. What's this? I asked. Keys. To Grandma's old house. I bought it at auction. Why? Because I want to fix it up, restore it, and I want your help. I looked at my son, this man who'd been a stranger, an enemy, a disappointment, and now maybe something else. I don't know anything about restoration. Yes, you do. You taught me. When I was 8, remember? We built that treehouse together. I did remember. Summer days, sawdust and sweat, his small hands holding nails while I hammered. Before everything got complicated. That was a long time ago. So, can't we start again? I took the keys. They were heavy, old brass, worn smooth by generations of use. It'll take months, maybe years. I've got time. It'll be hard work. I'm ready. We'll probably fight. Definitely. I smiled, first genuine smile in months. When do we start? Tomorrow? Tomorrow. He left. I stood on my porch, holding the keys, feeling the weight of them, the history, the possibility. That night, I dreamed about that treehouse. How Dylan had laughed when we finally finished it. How he'd made me climb up to see the view. How perfect it had been for that one moment before everything changed. In the dream, we were building it again. But this time, we both knew how it would end, and we built it anyway. When I woke up, I called Dylan. "Yeah?" he answered on the second ring. "I was thinking, for the restoration, we should use the same wood we used for that treehouse. I don't remember what kind it was. Pine. Cheap pine from the hardware store. Nothing fancy. Why pine? Because that's what we could afford, and it held up for 20 years. Sometimes the cheap stuff is stronger than you think." Silence on the line. Then, "Yeah. Okay. Pine it is. See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow, Dad." I hung up, sat on my bed, held those old brass keys in my hand. They were just keys. Just metal cut into specific shapes to open specific doors. But they felt like more than that. Felt like choices, like chances, like all the paths not taken, and maybe still possible. I thought about Amanda, somewhere in a jail cell, probably already planning her next con. About Evelyn, married to Richard, trying to convince herself she'd made the right choice. About Sarah, patient and kind, and probably too good for me. About Rebecca, retired in Florida, done with other people's disasters. And I thought about Dylan, my son, who'd stolen from me, betrayed me, mocked me publicly, who I'd destroyed in return, who was offering me a chance to build something new from the ruins of everything we'd broken. Tomorrow, we'd start work on that old house. We'd probably fight. We'd definitely struggle. The work would be hard, the conversations harder, the silences hardest of all. But we'd have our hands in the wood and sawdust in our hair, and maybe, slowly, carefully, we'd build something that could hold us both. I put the keys on my nightstand, turned off the light, closed my eyes. And for the first time in a year, I slept through the night.